Sir, I need you to step outside for a moment. We received a complaint.
A complaint? I'm just sitting here having lunch.
Do you have any business being here?
Yes, I'm here all the time.
All right, I'm being told you're making other guests uncomfortable.
By doing what exactly? I don't believe anyone actually called this in.
This isn't a discussion. I need you to leave right now.
Officer Ryan Keller had no idea what he had just stepped into. Within the next 3 days, his badge number would be circulating across social media. His department would quietly launch an internal review, and a civil lawsuit worth $7.9 million would be delivered to city attorneys. The man Keller had just threatened with arrest wasn't loitering, wasn't trespassing, and wasn't suspicious. He owned the restaurant, and not just that one. Caleb Monroe wasn't a random diner killing time over lunch. He was the founder and majority owner of Monroe Culinary Collective, a privately held restaurant group operating 9 upscale locations across 3 states. His company generated over $46 million annually, employed more than 280 people, and had been featured in Forbes Dining, Bloomberg Businessweek, and Food and Wine magazine. Every second of what was about to unfold was being recorded by the security system inside his own establishment. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever been judged not by your actions, but simply by how you looked when you walked into a room? Leave your answer in the comments. Officer Keller didn't know who he was speaking to. Caleb Monroe was 44 years old. He had spent 27 years in the restaurant industry. He started bussing tables at 15, moved onto the line by 17, and worked his way through culinary school while pulling double shifts. He trained under award-winning chefs in Chicago and New York before opening his first restaurant at 29, using $95,000 he'd saved over a decade. That single location turned into a brand. By 2024, Monroe Culinary Collective operated restaurants in Illinois, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, including this flagship location in downtown Cleveland's Warehouse District. Caleb still visited unannounced. He liked sitting in the same corner booth, laptop open, quietly reviewing invoices while tasting new dishes exactly the way customers experienced them. Staff called him CM on Wednesday, April 10, 2024, just after 2:30 p.m. Caleb was doing exactly that, answering emails, eating lunch, and minding his business. He had no idea that his presence alone would be interpreted as a problem. Officer Ryan Keller, on the other hand, already had a reputation inside his precinct. He was 36 years old and had been with the city police department for 10 years. Over the past 6, he'd accumulated 8 formal complaints. Every single one involved black men being questioned, detained, or confronted in predominantly affluent commercial areas. In 2018, Keller stopped a black commercial photographer unloading equipment outside a luxury hotel. The man had permits. Keller detained him anyway. In 2020, he questioned a black financial analyst waiting outside his own condo building at night. The resident filed a complaint. No discipline followed. In 2022, Keller confronted a black rideshare driver legally parked outside a steakhouse. He threatened to tow the vehicle despite an active ride on the app. The passenger recorded it. Keller received verbal counseling. This restaurant wasn't new territory for him either. A former general manager had submitted a written concern in 2021, stating Keller routinely made black patrons uncomfortable. 2 servers later admitted they'd watched him question customers about how they could afford the menu. Staff had a nickname for him, Badge with a Bias. But on April 10th, Keller chose the wrong table. This time there were cameras. This time there were witnesses. And this time the man he targeted had the resources to fight back. The afternoon crowd at Iron Harbor Kitchen was thinning out. It was 2:41 p.m. The lunch rush had passed, leaving about a dozen patrons scattered across the 58-seat dining room. Exposed steel beams lined the ceiling. Warm pendant lights glowed above reclaimed wood tables. Low-volume soul jazz hummed through hidden speakers, mixing with the quiet rhythm of plates and silverware. Caleb Monroe sat exactly where he always did, the back left corner booth, his shoulders against the brick wall, laptop open, half a plate of rosemary braised lamb untouched in front of him. He typed calmly, focused on an email thread about vendor pricing. Across the room, Elena Ruiz, the floor supervisor, moved between tables. She'd worked here nearly 5 years. She recognized Caleb instantly the moment he walked in earlier. No greeting, no announcement, just a nod in his usual booth. At the bar, Marcus Hale, a prep cook on break, scrolled through his phone. Near the windows, an older white couple shared coffee. 2 consultants compared spreadsheets at a high top. Nothing was out of the ordinary. Until 2:38 p.m., that's when a woman in her early 50s stepped through the front doors. Her name was Linda Carver. She paused just inside the entrance, scanning the room slowly. Her eyes moved table to table and then stopped. They landed on Caleb. She stared for several seconds, long enough to be noticeable. Long enough for Alina to clock it from across the room. Linda walked to the host's stand. Her voice was low, but Alina could hear enough to feel confused. "I just want to ask, is that man supposed to be sitting there?" Alina blinked. Yes, ma'am. Linda tilted her head. He's been there a while. Elena kept her tone polite. That's our owner. Linda frowned. No, I mean the man with the laptop. Yes, Elena said firmly. That's Mr. Monroe. He owns this restaurant. Linda stared at her, expression hardening. I don't believe that. Without another word, she stepped away, pulled out her phone, and walked back outside. Elena hesitated, then crossed the floor toward Caleb. CM, she said quietly, just a heads up. That woman asked if you belonged here. I told her you own the place. She didn't like that and went outside to make a call. Caleb glanced up briefly, unfazed. It's fine. I'll finish this email. At 2:47 p.m., the front doors opened again. This time it was Officer Ryan Keller. Linda Carver immediately approached him, gesturing toward the corner booth. You couldn't hear what she said, but Keller nodded more than once. Then he turned and walked straight toward Caleb. Caleb looked up, expecting maybe a parking issue or a routine check. His posture stayed relaxed. Sir, Keller said, stopping at the table, I need you to step outside with me. Caleb frowned. Outside? Why? We received a complaint. A complaint about what? Keller glanced around. About you making people uncomfortable. Caleb gestured to the empty tables. I'm eating lunch and answering emails. Are you a customer here? Keller asked. I'm here often, Caleb replied carefully. That's not what I asked. Caleb met his eyes. Yes, I'm a customer. Keller's tone hardened. The manager says you need to leave. Caleb paused. Which manager? I'm not going to argue with you, Keller said. You can leave voluntarily or I can escort you out. Elena froze where she stood. Caleb closed his laptop halfway. Officer, I'd like to know who made the complaint and what law I'm violating. That's not your concern, Keller snapped. Your concern is following lawful orders. Is it lawful, Caleb asked calmly, to remove a paying customer with no stated reason? Keller stepped closer. Are you refusing to comply? I'm asking for clarification. Suspicious loitering, Keller said. The owner doesn't want you here. Caleb's expression didn't change, but his voice did. The owner? Yes, Caleb inhaled slowly. Then I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. Keller's hand moved toward his cuffs. Stand up. Now, Elena rushed forward. Officer, wait, that's, ma'am, step back, Keller barked. Marcus at the bar stood up. That's our boss, man. What are you doing? Everyone stay seated, Keller ordered. This is police business. An older man near the window spoke up. Officer, he hasn't bothered anyone. Sir, sit down. Keller leaned in, invading Caleb's space. His hand hovered near his taser. Caleb slowly raised both hands, palms visible. I'm not resisting, he said evenly, but I need you to understand something. What I understand, Keller replied, is you're seconds away from being arrested. Caleb met his gaze. I own this restaurant and I'd like to speak to your supervisor. And that's when Keller made a mistake he couldn't take back. The dining room had gone completely silent. Officer Keller's eyes narrowed. Sir, do not reach for anything. I'm getting my wallet, Caleb said slowly. It has my ID and the business license for this location. Keller's hand snapped up. I said don't move. Caleb froze, then carefully slid his chair back just enough to reach inside his jacket. He removed a worn leather wallet and placed it flat on the table, no sudden movements, no attitude. From inside, he pulled out a laminated document and slid it forward. Monroe Culinary Collective, owner of Record Iron Harbor Kitchen, this location. Keller picked it up, glanced at it once, then scoffed. Anyone can print a fake license. Caleb didn't raise his voice. My name is on the building deed filed with Cuyahoga County. It's on the liquor license behind the bar, it's on the food service permit in the kitchen, and it's on the payroll for the 23 employees working this shift. Elena took a step closer. Officer, he comes in every week, same booth, same routine. I told you to step back, Keller snapped. Marcus moved beside her. I've worked for Caleb 3 years. He paid for my culinary certification. This is his place. A woman at a nearby high top stood up, phone already raised. I've been recording since you walked in. I'm a civil rights attorney and you're escalating without probable cause. That made Keller hesitate just for a second. Caleb gestured calmly around the room. There are 6 security cameras covering this floor, cloud-backed, audio included. Your body cam is on too. Keller stiffened. Why don't we slow this down, Caleb continued, and figure out who called you and why? Keller turned sharply toward the front. Linda Carver stood near the entrance, arms folded, eyes darting. A concerned citizen reported suspicious behavior, Keller said. Caleb nodded. Define suspicious. Keller hesitated. A man sitting without clear purpose. A black man, Caleb corrected quietly. Linda shifted uncomfortably. Elena spoke again. She asked if he was supposed to be here. I told her he owns the restaurant. She said she didn't believe me and went outside to call someone. The attorney's phone never lowered. Officer, you were given contradictory information within the first minute. Continuing this is a Fourth Amendment violation. At 3:01 p.m., the kitchen tablet logged a transaction. Caleb had comped his own meal, owner access code visible on the system. At 3:03, the district operations manager called the police department directly. At 3:05, Keller's radio crackled. Unit 312, priority call. Supervisor requesting immediate contact. Keller turned away, jaw tight, and answered near the door. No one could hear the words, but everyone could see the color drain from his face. He paced once, nodded, ran a hand through his hair. When he came back, he avoided Caleb's eyes. Behind him, Linda tried to edge toward the exit. Alina stepped into her path. "Ma'am, please wait. I need to leave," Linda said quickly. "I have an appointment." "You called the police," Alina replied. "You should stay." Linda's voice wavered. "I was just concerned. He didn't look like what?" Caleb asked, standing for the first time. The room held its breath. Linda swallowed hard. "I was trying to protect the restaurant." Caleb met her stare. "Protect my restaurant," he said quietly, "from me." At 3:17 p.m., the front doors opened again. This time it wasn't a patrol officer, it was Keller's supervisor. At 3:17 p.m., Sergeant Angela Morris stepped through the front doors. She scanned the room once, the raised phones, the rigid posture of her officer, the man standing calmly beside a corner booth, and immediately knew something was wrong. "What's going on here?" she asked. Officer Keller straightened. "Sergeant, we received a complaint of suspicious behavior. The individual refused to leave when asked." Angela's eyes shifted to Caleb. "Sir," Caleb spoke evenly, "I'm the owner of this restaurant. Your officer is attempting to remove me based on a false complaint." Angela turned back to Keller. "Did you verify ownership?" "He provided a document," Keller said quickly. "I believed it could be fabricated." Angela exhaled slowly. "Did you check the license behind the bar?" Keller didn't answer. "Did you ask the staff?" She continued. "They interfered." Angela's jaw tightened. "By stating facts," she turned to Alina. "Ma'am," Alina didn't hesitate. "Mr. Monroe owns this restaurant and 8 others. He's here weekly. That woman asked if he belonged here. I told her he did." "She didn't believe me," Marcus added. "He signs our checks." Angela nodded once. She turned back to Keller. "Radio dispatch, confirm ownership of Iron Harbor Kitchen." Dispatch answered within seconds. "Confirmed." "Property deed, liquor license, and operating permits all list Caleb Monroe as owner." Silence. Angela looked at Keller. "Why is your hand near your taser?" Keller shifted uncomfortably. "He was non-compliant." Caleb lifted both hands again, palms open. "I never raised my voice. I never stood until moments ago. I asked for clarification." Angela faced him. "Sir, I'm sorry this escalated." "Please remain where you are." She keyed her radio again. "Lieutenant on duty, request immediate response." Linda Carver stood rigid near the entrance, face pale. "I didn't do anything wrong," she muttered. "I was just being careful." Angela turned to her. "Ma'am, did you tell dispatch there was a crime?" "I said there was a man who didn't belong here," Linda replied. Angela's tone hardened. "Did you say why?" "He made me uncomfortable." "Did he threaten you?" "No." "Speak to you?" "No." "Touch you?" "No." Angela nodded slowly. "Then you made a police report based solely on your assumption." Linda opened her mouth, then closed it. At 3:24 p.m., Lieutenant Paul Whitaker arrived. He didn't waste time. "Badge numbers," he said. "Now," Keller recited his. Angela gave hers. Whitaker turned to Caleb. "Mr. Monroe, I apologize. I'll be reviewing all footage immediately." They walked to the back office. On the monitor, the timeline was unmistakable. Caleb entering at 2:31, greeting the host by name, sitting in his usual booth, logging into the owner portal. Comping his meal. At 2:39, Linda entering. At 2:41, her phone call. At 2:47, Keller arriving. Whitaker rewound it twice. When they returned to the dining room, Whitaker's expression was ice cold. "Officer Keller," he said, "you were informed within 1 minute that this man owned the restaurant. You chose to disregard that." "I was responding to a call," Keller said weakly. "You were given facts that contradicted it," Whitaker replied, "and you escalated anyway." He turned to Caleb. "Sir, the chief has been notified. He's en route." Linda's voice cracked. "This is getting blown out of proportion." Whitaker looked at her. "Ma'am, you filed a false report. That has consequences." Linda took a step back. "I didn't know who he was." Caleb met her eyes. "You didn't need to." At 3:38 p.m., the front doors opened one final time. The police chief walked in, and everything changed. At 3:38 p.m., Chief Daniel Hargreave entered Iron Harbor Kitchen. That alone told everyone how serious the situation had become. Chiefs don't show up for routine calls. They show up when something has already gone very wrong. He didn't speak at first. He didn't look at the officer. He walked directly to Caleb. "Mr. Monroe," he said, extending his hand, "I am deeply sorry. This should never have happened." Caleb shook it once firmly. "But it did," Hargreave nodded. "And we're going to address it." He turned to Lieutenant Whitaker. "You've reviewed the footage." "Yes, Chief, multiple angles. Staff statements are consistent. The complaint was unfounded." Hargreave faced Keller. "Officer Ryan Keller." "Yes, sir. You were informed this man was the owner." "Yes, sir. You were shown documentation." "Yes, sir. You were told by staff." "Yes, sir. And despite all of that, you attempted to detain him." Keller swallowed. "I believed the situation required." Hargreave cut him off. "You believed wrong." The dining room was so quiet you could hear the refrigeration hum from the bar. "Effective immediately," the chief continued. "You are being placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Turn in your badge and service weapon." Keller's eyes widened. "Chief, now." Keller unclipped his badge. The metal hit the table with a sharp sound. He unholstered his weapon and handed it over, hands shaking. Hargreave turned to Linda Carver. Ma'am, you contacted police in alleged suspicious activity, is that correct? Yes, she said, voice thin. Did you report a crime? I said I was concerned. Concern is not a crime, Hargreave replied. You stated a man did not belong here. That statement was false. I didn't know who he was. Hargreave's voice was steady. That is not a defense, he gestured to Sergeant Morris. Escort her outside. We'll be discussing false reporting. Linda's composure collapsed. This is ridiculous. I was just trying to keep people safe. Caleb spoke quietly. From what? She couldn't answer. As Linda was escorted out, customers began to murmur. Phones stayed raised. The attorney at the high top whispered into her device, narrating calmly. Hargreave turned back to Caleb. We will provide you copies of all footage, Bodycam included. Internal Affairs will contact you within 24 hours. Caleb nodded. They won't be my only call. I wouldn't expect otherwise, the chief said. At 3:52 p.m., Officer Keller exited through the side door, no badge, no weapon, no authority. 45 minutes after arriving to remove a trespasser, he left stripped of command. Applause broke out from two tables. Alina wiped tears from her eyes. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Caleb sat back down slowly. His hands trembled now that the adrenaline faded. Are you okay? Alina asked. I will be, he said, but this isn't over. At 4:11 p.m., the first video clip hit social media, a 30-second upload, shaky hands. Clear audio, caption, police tried to arrest a black restaurant owner inside his own restaurant. Within minutes, it was spreading. By 4:47, a civil rights attorney named Naomi Brooks had reposted it with a single sentence. This is why documentation matters. The storm had just begun. By 5:30 p.m., the video had crossed 50,000 views. By 6:15, it was no longer just a clip, it was a story. Alina's short recording, filmed from behind the service station, showed Officer Keller standing inches from Caleb, his voice sharp, his hand hovering near his equipment. The caption she added was simple, "That's my boss, he owns this place." And they almost arrested him anyway. People reacted instantly, comments poured in by the hundreds, then thousands. This could have ended so much worse. How is this even legal? He showed proof and they still pushed. This is racial profiling, period. At 6:48 p.m., a local news producer messaged Caleb directly. At 7:10, Channel 8 ran the first segment during the evening broadcast. They blurred faces at first, but the audio was unmistakable. The anchor's words were careful but firm. Cleveland police are investigating an incident where an officer attempted to remove a restaurant owner from his own business following a customer complaint. By 8:00 p.m., national accounts picked it up. Naomi Brooks uploaded a longer thread. This man is Caleb Monroe. He owns 9 restaurants. Today, he was treated as a criminal in one of them because a customer felt uncomfortable. This is America, the post exploded. On X alone, it passed 1.9 million views before midnight. TikTok stitched the clip into commentary videos that racked up hundreds of thousands of likes. Instagram pages reposted it with captions like "eating while black" and "respectability didn't save him." Caleb's company inbox flooded, support messages, media requests, employees from other restaurants sharing similar stories. Parents telling him they showed the video to their kids. At 10:22 p.m., Monroe Culinary Collective released a statement. Today, our founder was falsely accused, confronted, and nearly detained inside the restaurant he built. We are reviewing all legal options. No one should have to prove they belong in their own space. By morning, Caleb's personal phone hadn't stopped vibrating. At 9:04 a.m. the next day, a morning show requested a live interview. At 11:30, a national outlet confirmed the officer had been placed on leave. At 1:15 p.m., a detail slipped out that changed everything. Internal records showed Officer Keller had 8 prior complaints, all involving black men. None had resulted in suspension. That detail ignited outrage. Pattern, predictable. How many times does this happen without cameras hookup? By 3:40 p.m., Linda Carver's identity surfaced. Someone matched her name to the 911 call log. Screenshots of her public social media profiles circulated. Her employer was tagged repeatedly. At 6:00 p.m., her company issued a brief statement. We are aware of the situation and are reviewing the matter internally. By 8:30 p.m., Linda's accounts went private. Too late, the internet already had receipts. That night, Caleb sat alone in the same booth, restaurant closed, lights dimmed. The place felt different now, not unsafe, but exposed. He opened his laptop and typed a single email. To Naomi Brooks, subject. Representation. The reply came back in under 5 minutes. I'm in, let's talk tomorrow. Caleb leaned back, exhaled, and stared at the ceiling. What happened to him had been public. What came next would be legal, and it would be expensive. The lawsuit was filed 6 days later. On April 16, 2024, attorneys for Caleb Monroe submitted a federal civil rights complaint in U.S. District Court. The defendants were named clearly and publicly. The City of Cleveland, the Cleveland Police Department, Officer Ryan Keller, and Linda Carver in her personal capacity. The claims were extensive. Violation of the Fourth Amendment for unlawful detention. Violation of the 14th Amendment for racial discrimination, false arrest and abuse of authority, defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress stemming from a knowingly false report, failure by the department to supervise and discipline a documented pattern of misconduct. During discovery, the evidence became overwhelming. 6 security camera angles from Iron Harbor Kitchen. 3 independent cell phone videos from patrons. Officer Keller's body camera footage showing him ignoring contradictory information. Internal emails between supervisors discussing the Keller issue. The 911 call recording where Linda Carver stated, "There's a black man sitting here who doesn't seem to belong." That single sentence was played in court more than once. Records also revealed Linda's history. In 2019, she called police on a black family hosting a birthday picnic at a public park. In 2021, she complained to gym management about a threatening black man, a certified personal trainer. In 2023, she contacted her HOA over suspicious visitors at her black neighbor's home. Each time no crime, each time no apology. 8 months later, in December 2024, the case settled. The city agreed to pay $5.6 million. Officer Keller was personally liable for $420,000. Linda Carver was ordered by a jury to pay $1.9 million in damages. Total settlement, $7.9 million. Officer Keller was terminated. His law enforcement certification was permanently revoked. He is no longer eligible to work as a police officer in the state. Linda Carver faced criminal charges for filing a false police report. She accepted a plea deal, probation, mandatory community service, bias training, and a permanent restraining order prohibiting contact with Caleb or any Monroe Culinary Collective employee. She was fired from her job. Her professional licenses lapsed. She sold her home to satisfy the judgment and quietly left the city. The financial consequences were severe, but the cultural impact was bigger. Caleb donated $1.2 million of the settlement to a legal defense fund, supporting service workers and minority-owned businesses facing discrimination. He expanded his company, opening 2 new locations the following year. In January 2025, Caleb testified before City Council. "I didn't ask to become a headline," he said. "I just wanted to eat lunch. But if my experience creates accountability, if it protects even one worker who doesn't have cameras or lawyers, then it matters." His closing words were simple. No one should have to justify their existence in their own space. The video resurfaced again. Millions watched, comments poured in, and the question remained, lingering long after the headlines faded. How many people never get justice simply because no one was recording? If this story made you angry, say why in the comments. Do you think filing racially motivated false police reports should be a felony, or is probation enough? And be honest, if there were no cameras, do you believe this would have ended the same way? Share your city in the comments and subscribe if you think stories like this need to keep being told.